The format of tonight's meeting is to have a guest speaker share their experience, strength and hope on how Alcoholics Anonymous program of recovery is working in their lives for 15 to 20 minutes. Tonight we've asked Tyrone to share.
Hi, I'm Tyrone, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Tyrone.
Yeah, I've been shitting myself all day about this. I don't know, like I just spent years trying to figure out what was wrong with me. It was a long time before I ever picked up a drink that I knew something wasn't right, like I was always behind the fashion growing up, I always felt, I used to watch the other kids play chasey and not understand the rules and not feel comfortable in my skin, all that shit that we hear about, like I didn't have the words to express it at the time, or I didn't even have the insight to really understand it. It was just a constant feeling of being separate from everybody else, like from the wrong family or the wrong neighborhood, or I was born into, lower socioeconomic class, and I was always embarrassed about that. I always had clothes from the salvos, whatever it was that I rocked up to school with, I just instinctively felt that it was wrong. And escapism was a big part of growing up for me, like just obsessive nature, just in everything. First it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but like obsessive, like days on end, like unhealthily. And then it was WWF, and at 13 it was pot. And pot didn't really make me feel any more connected with the other kids. It just made me not give a shit. Like, and I kind of used it to define who I was. I was the kid to talk to if you wanted it, and I knew I spent a lot of time on the internet finding out all the different strands of it, and really felt like, it was finally I had something about me that I could bring to the table. And I got expelled from a couple of schools, got in some trouble with the law, and there was a bit of depression there at about 15, but not really enough to stop me from doing it. And it was harder drugs by 16, and then the consequences started to get more serious. Like I got in some a bit more serious trouble with the law, and there was some instances of psychosis, which really scared me, but not enough to stop me from doing it. And I got really physically sick. I was a fraction of the weight that I am now, in an unhealthy codependent relationship, constantly on bail or having to face up to some kind of office, and just feeling utterly beaten. I still couldn't put my finger on addiction. I knew that I had mental health problems. I had a fucking board of psychiatrists telling me that I had mental health problems, and I had a board of police telling me that I had legal problems. But it was none of that stuff that made me stop. It was just constant fear of just not knowing who I was or what I was doing, and waking up every morning. And the first thing I had to do was get something into my system to just try and level out all that tension and excessive energy that I always had. And when I was 19, I was before a judge again. It was fucking constant by that point. And as an alternative to prison, he sent me to a rehab. We didn't have any inpatient rehabs in the town that I grew up in, so he gave me like a involuntary drug treatment health act thing. Basically, I had to report every day to a caseworker, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a probation officer, a counsellor, this type of shit. And I had to piss in the cups and then run the results over to the legal people and say, look, the drugs are decreasing, don't lock me up. And it took 5 months to break the dependence that I had. It was supposed to be a 9-week program. It took me 5 months to break the dependence that I had on legal drugs that they'd given me as a replacement for the illegal stuff. And at 19, I was at about 17, I was starting to struggle with the idea that I might have two people going on in my head. Because when I was 17, I was doing well in school, on my third attempt, mind you. But I was doing well at school. I was starting to win academic achievement awards. I won some merit awards for outstanding achievement in the arts, and I got a scholarship to move over here, and then it all just disappeared. And it kept me occupied enough to know that I had something about me that was worth working on. I was still interested in that art stuff, but that little nasty bit of me that didn't like who I was or where I was just wanted to fucking ruin me. And it seemed to make so much sense on the weekend to just start putting shit into my system, and then during the week was too much to deal with, the same thing again. And so skip along, by 19 the academic stuff was finished, and I was unemployed and unemployable, and had some physical stuff going on. And so this judge put me through an involuntary rehab thing and managed to break the dependence. But as I was coming off the drugs that I was on, I started drinking every night, and I never made the connection. Like, call it whatever you want, denial, ignorance, fucking whatever. I started drinking, and I basically got drunk at 19 and just stayed drunk until just short of my 25th birthday. And the consequences of alcoholism compared to my drug addiction were so externally different that there was enough there that I could lie to myself about it. Like, you know, I got out of the town that I was in, away from the drug dealers and the bullshit and all the stuff that was causing me a lot of grief. And I moved to Melbourne and I got a job. And I started off as a job, actually became a career. I'm a chef. Talk about, man, if you want to work in an industry where drinking's acceptable, like I drank all day, every day, and I had girlfriends, I did some study, I did some travel, I did all the things that I thought, if I did them in my early 20s, then that's going to make me the content person that I was always lacking even before addiction. And that, you know, that little murky area of my past where I dealt with psychosis and depression and stuff, I kind of just left it there, and I knew that drugs was something that I should avoid, but alcohol was like my, you know, get out of jail free card. I was like, well, fucking, no one would give me a hard time for drinking. If they knew what I was like on the drugs, they wouldn't fucking hassle me about the booze. And it was utter bullshit because it ended in the same way. Like, I was never arrested drunk, but at the end, I couldn't pull my shit together. I couldn't keep a job for more than a week or two. I'd moved to England towards the end of my drink. I didn't know it was towards the end of my drinking, but I'd gone over to England with this girl, and she started giving me a hard time about the drinking. You know, her English wasn't very good. She was French, and she'd say things like, you take 3-4 drinks and you get the eye of devil. And I was like, yeah, your English is shit, but I know what you're getting at. I didn't say that. Well, I might have said it. And so she left, and then the big fancy job under the famous chef, that was gone. I went from Regent Park, which, if you know London, that's the expensive part of the Monopoly board, and that job went, and the flat went, and everything went, and I was in that same lonely, horrible, dark place that I recognised as, you know, the murky part of my past, the depression and the going off to the doctor to get whatever I could try and get off him to make me feel better, and it wasn't working. And I picked up another drug habit and went to Thailand to try and break that, because that was my best thinking. I spent 3 weeks trying to detox in Thailand, didn't work, came back to Australia with a drug habit. Kind of knocked that on the head, down to once a week, but I was drinking around the clock, and I still didn't see that was the cause of my problem. I couldn't understand why I couldn't keep money in the bank, why I couldn't get money together to get a flat. A lot of times I just walked around Melbourne until the sun came up because I had nowhere to go, and I just wanted to drink into oblivion. And I don't want to spend too long on the drunk log, but I've got a lot more drinking than I do of recovery. And so I managed to get another job around this time, and my drinking got to that point where, part of being a chef is that you have to receive deliveries at the back door, and you check the packaging and you sign for it and you start putting it away. And I couldn't do that. I had to get one of the apprentices to do it because I wasn't sure if I was going to remember my name when I was talking to the delivery driver, and if I could remember it, I couldn't hold my hand still long enough to sign the invoice. And all that fear and all that confusion and the loneliness and the constantly being beaten by life and waking up and feeling like I was punished, like I was being punished for being awake, and overwhelmed by the fact that, fucking hell, there's some light coming through my window, that means it's going to be a shit day. Just, going straight into that headspace. And so I got a job over in North Melbourne. I got talking to this guy, and he was pretty open about the fact that he's a recovering alcoholic, and he had something about him that I didn't know what it was. He's just, he's kind of witty, kind of funny, kind of comfortable with himself, and I knew that at the end of service, when the chefs were getting on the piss, he would sit there with his orange soda and be as comfortable and content within himself that I was trying to get from the booze. And fucking obviously wasn't working for me. Like, I was in a world of trouble. But he had what I was trying to get from the... I couldn't articulate all that at the time. I just knew, this guy doesn't drink. But he started speaking to me about addiction, and he started telling me about the cycle of addiction, the guilt, shame, remorse, irritability, restlessness, discontent, the obsession, will I, won't I, and then, of course I'm going to. And having little or no control over the amount that I took once I started. And it all made sense to me. I'd done 5 months in a kind of rehab, and I'd seen psychs, and I'd had all the medical terminology, and I knew some big Latin words, but none of it meant shit when I was stuck in the addiction. Like, I just couldn't see a way out. And he said to me, why don't you come along to this meeting? And best case scenario, you get there and you don't identify with what they're talking about. And he goes, worst case scenario, you relate to everything they're saying and you realise you're an alcoholic. And he goes, but in that instance, you'll be at an AA meeting, and at least you can start doing something about it. So I went along to my first meeting on a Monday night, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I haven't had a drink since my first meeting. I don't know why it happened like that for me. It wasn't by any of my great skill or talent. Like, I never got a day of sobriety on self-will. I don't think that on the 3rd of October last year I suddenly was able to fucking stay sober. Like, it didn't happen like that for me. I come along to this meeting and just got something there, you know, something on some level said to me, fucking these people know what they're on about. They're talking about stuff that I'd felt for years and never spoken about to anybody, because you're a fucking man. You don't talk to people about your feelings. You know, other people get up, they get on the piss every night and go out there and they have breakfast in the morning and they go off to work and they seem to be able to function all right, but that wasn't happening for me. It was beating me down. I came along to this meeting and heard people talk about living in sobriety, and they talked about drinking, how they used to drink, how I was drinking at the time, and I haven't had a drink since that day, and it's been 15 months of just learning how to get comfortable in AA. You know, I've got 15 months of sobriety, and that's about as much as I've got to offer in terms of advice. Is I just spent 12 months trying to be okay with the fact that I'm a recovering alcoholic and this is a lifelong thing. You know, I've started the steps 3 times. I'm doing my 4th again. I'm not always a shining example of how to be a recovering alcoholic. I'll get into the headset where things start going well for me because I'm doing the things that are suggested, and then they're going so well that I get cocky and I stop doing them. And then my head starts to get a bit wiry. People at work start to shit me. My life starts to seem a bit futile. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I'll either drink or I'll get back to doing this stuff. And it's usually only when I'm really, you know, in that slightly depressive or overwhelmed state that I'll start doing this stuff again. And every time I do it, it's there waiting for me, and things improve. And I guess that means I should just do it more often. But, you know, I'll easily buy the bullshit that goes on in my head. Like, not now because I'm travelling well and I'm doing steps, and I prayed this morning, and you know, I spent this afternoon talking to my sponsor and everything, so I'm in a good place, and I know that those things I need in my life to be the buffer for me that alcohol used to be. But sometimes I'll just not do it. You know, I don't know why. I think there's a part of me that doesn't like the fact that I only get 24 hours. I'd like you people to say to me, if you do this on the Monday, you'll be sweet till Friday. But it doesn't work like that. It's every morning I have to get up and remind myself I'm a recovering alcoholic and I can't drink in safety. I can't not drink, and I can't stop myself from drinking. Like, I have no power over it, you know. I was lucky because about a week before I got into sobriety, I had that moment of, I don't know, desperation, clarity, whatever you want to call it, and I knew that my drinking was getting worse. There was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing I could do about it, and it was going to get worse. And I haven't gone back on that, you know, since I had that moment. Like, it was, like, my denial left me then, and it hasn't come back, thank God. But that doesn't mean that I'm always fucking jumping out of bed ready to do recovery. Like, sometimes I just want to go and chase chicks and not fucking go to a meeting. Like, I do a meeting every day, but I just have to, because nothing else worked before this. None of my best intentions of living in a certain country with a certain girl or just trying really hard, nothing worked before I came to AA, and I've got 15 months of sobriety following what you guys told me to do, so I'm not willing to start fucking gambling with that, you know. And like, in theory it's easy. If you don't want to get drunk, don't drink. Like, you know, I was pretty fried, but I could figure that much out. If you don't want to get fucking drunk, just don't put alcohol into your system. But the thing that I couldn't figure out was, well, how do you not drink? Like, how do you stop yourself? How do you deal with all the noise in your head and life on life's terms without putting some kind of buffer between me and my emotions, me and the mirror, me and all you lot? Like, what comes in place of that? And this program, like, I hate the fact that it's so simple, but it's just how it is. You know, when I do this stuff, I travel well, and life seems to be more rewarding and rich than intimidating and boring. And I certainly haven't got everything that I wanted coming into recovery. I thought I would have done a couple of around the world trips by now, got a book published, owned a Harley. I can't even ride a fucking scooter, but I thought I'd get a Harley. But what I've got now is that hole that was always in me, even before I picked up a drink, is starting to slowly close. I had a situation recently where my brother got really sick, and he's still really sick. He's in psychosis. He's an addict, but his drug of choice is an alcohol. It's ice, and he got violent, and my mum got hysterical. She doesn't have many coping skills either, so she rang me, and I didn't want to be involved. Like, I've spent years avoiding the bullshit that goes on in my family, but because I worked this program, because I have enough kind of faith in the program for myself, I allowed a little bit of myself to be available for my mum and my family when they needed it, and I talked her through it. I got my brother the help that he needed, you know, and we had to get him locked up a few times beforehand, but it was a hard decision. You know, you come from a background I come from, you don't fucking speak to coppers, you don't speak to anybody like that. Really? That's awesome. yeah, that talk about a fucking change of attitude. Like, I spoke to the coppers 3 times in a matter of 10 days because it was a responsible thing to do, and with the kind of insight and clarity that I've got in this program, I was able to step outside of the situation, see what was going on, see who was in danger, who was being affected by it, and make a mature adult decision, even though it wasn't an easy decision to make. That's not me by nature. Me by nature is to just kind of a little bit of that, you know. Fucking you deal with it. I'm not interested. You're killing my buzz. But like, I was able to be present for my family when they needed it, and that's the most recent gift, and I'm still kind of spinning out from that because I didn't see that coming. What is it? 2 minutes. I think that's all I got, really. To be honest, I'll leave it at that.